I just want to start with this ICE story and get this out of the way, because I really think that we are, regardless of what happens in 2018, in terms of the Democrats picking up seats in the House, taking over the House, even if they were to take over the Senate, I mean, perhaps the Trump administration would decide to change its position on immigrants, but I find that highly unlikely. And ICE has always been, I think, a somewhat problematic agency. But now they have been unshackled and are despicable. There's really no other word for it. The leadership, and I would say, sorry, dude, you're working for ICE, you're a scumbag. You have skills that you could get hired at a local police department maybe, or maybe work for the county sheriff, or I don't know, become a security guard. But if you're someone who gets off and tracking human beings like they were prey in this way, then you're a scumbag. And I really think that we are probably not far off until people start to sort of actively try and jam what's happening with ICE. And this story is, it's disturbing, but far less grotesque than the ones of them arresting and deporting people who have been in this country for decades, who have family members here, to countries that they have little connection with. But The Verge reports that ICE has officially gained agency-wide access to a nationwide license plate recognition database. This is according to a contract finalized this month. The system gives the agency access to billions of license plate records and new powers of real-time location tracking, raising significant concerns from civil libertarians, really from anybody, I think, who's like a remotely thoughtful human being. You'd be worried about this. They get it from a private corporation, Vigilant Solutions, which is the leading network for license plate recognition data. They have amassed a database of more than 2 billion license plate photos by ingesting data from partners like vehicle repossession agencies and other private groups. So this I thought was relevant. The new license plate reader contract comes after years of internal lobbying by the agency. So in other words, ICE has been pushing for this for a long time. And they tested this system back in 2012. 2 years later, the agency opened, had an open solicitation for technology like this. There was a pushback from civil liberties groups. And at that time, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, who, and I am not lauding this guy. In many other respects, I found the guy to be horrible. But that gives you a sense of just sort of like how far we've fallen here. Jay Johnson canceled the solicitation shortly afterwards, citing privacy concerns. And then, once he shut it down, there were two apparently ICE field offices that formed rogue contracts with this private entity. This to give you a sense of just how scumbaggy ICE is as an agency. So that's where we are with that. Pleasant, I know.
I mean, what you said before about how people are going to start resisting this, it's already happened. There's an interesting documentary on Vice, actually, about a church that's protecting some undocumented families from ICE, and I imagine we'll see more of that.
I imagine we'll see more of that, and I hope, that we end up seeing stuff like And look, this type of stuff takes a lot of guts, and I'm not advocating anybody do this because I'm not prepared to do it myself. But there was, I guess, on Twitter, I remember early on in the this administration, seeing people tweet out ICE agents seen in the South Bronx, that type of stuff. And that to me seems like those type of networks seem to me, social media is sort of a perfect vehicle for those type of things. And maybe people will be developing apps that will automatically, you put in the location, boom, sends it right to Twitter, it gets repeated. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that can happen, technology that will just make it, harder. The same way Waze makes it harder for, I guess, to get it a speeding ticket because it indicates where the cops are. These things can be crowdsourced. And if there was ever an area that seemed ripe for it and just for it, that would be it in my mind.